The Trump administration is struggling to deal with the political fallout of Signalgate or WhiskeyLeaks, which is the scandal that the Trump administration created when they accidentally sent highly classified military intelligence to an unauthorized reporter. Not only do we have brutal new polling on this topic, but we also have a bombshell leak indicating that multiple top Trump advisors urged Donald Trump to fire some of the people involved in Signalgate, and the only reason he didn't do it is because he wanted to own the libs and deny them the satisfaction of him firing one of his key aides. It's an entire mess. But before we unpack all that, if you end up liking this video and you want to support the channel, please be sure to hit the like, subscribe, and alert bells before you go. All right, friends, so just to give you an update about what's going on. So Axios reports even Republicans say Trump's Signalgate scandal is serious. The share of Americans who say the administration's signal leak is a serious problem includes 60% of Republicans. Now, that's a poll that we discussed recently in a previous video. Again, and the same poll also indicates that more people take it seriously, Signalgate or WhiskeyLeaks, than they do the Trump classified documents scandal, the Biden classified documents scandal, and Hillary Clinton's email scandal. As if that wasn't bad enough, then you have this poll from the right-wing Daily Mail. This is not good. Trump supporters' verdict on who should resign over Signal war plans leak revealed in shock poll. Republican voters believe that both Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth and National Security Advisor Michael Waltz should both resign over the leaked attack plan scandal that has rocked the Trump White House, an exclusive Daily Mail poll finds. It comes after a journalist was accidentally included on a group chat among senior national security advisors discussing an imminent U.S. bombing raid on a Houthi terrorist leader in Yemen. Waltz, Trump's national security advisor, inadvertently invited the journalist, Jeffrey Goldberg, editor-in-chief of The Atlantic magazine, into the chat on the encrypted commercial app Signal. Hegseth, the defense secretary, then revealed precise timings and weapons packages that would be used in the raid. The attack was carried out on March 15th and was successful. So, in terms of the results, but a poll by JL Partners for Daily Mail reveals that a majority of Americans think Hegseth should fall on his sword. It found that 54% thought the Pentagon chief should resign, while 22% backed him to stay and 24% not sure. Crucially, 38% of Republicans said Hegseth should go, with only 33% saying he should stay in the job. The rest said they didn't know. A majority of independents, 54%, said he should also resign, while 20% said he shouldn't. This is stunning. Meanwhile, 47% of voters in the poll said Waltz should hand in his resignation, with only 21% backing the national security advisor. Republicans narrowly agreed, with 33% saying he should go and 32% saying he should stay. So a plurality of Republicans, according to that poll from the Daily Mail, a right-wing outlet, think that both Waltz and Hegseth should resign. This is devastating for both them personally, which is hilarious, and also the Republican effort as a whole. And then on top of it, you have this bombshell story from Politico, this leak. In a private meeting, Vance and top advisors suggested Trump outs Waltz. Okay? On Wednesday evening, following a brutal day of headlines surrounding the now infamous Signal chat, Vice President J.D. Vance, Chief of Staff Susie Wiles, and top personnel official Sergio Gore gently offered Donald Trump some advice in a private meeting. National Security Advisor Mike Waltz's accidental inclusion of a journalist in the chat was creating a major embarrassment for the White House. Perhaps it was time to consider showing him the door, they suggested, according to two people familiar with the conversations who were granted anonymity to discuss them. Trump agreed that Waltz had messed up, according to the people, but Trump ultimately decided not to fire him for one reason for now. Like hell, he'd give the liberal media and pearl-clutching Democrats a win. Quote, "They don't want to give the press a scalp," said one of the people, a White House ally close with the team. Despite simmering anger directed at the national security advisor from inside the White House, Waltz still has his job 5 days after The Atlantic first published its explosive story on the Signal chat. That doesn't mean he's safe yet, according to the two people. In fact, the two allies have heard some administration officials are just waiting for the right time to let him go, eager to be free of the news cycle before making changes. One of them offered this prediction. Quote, "They'll stick by him for now, but he'll be gone in a couple of weeks." Vance's office declined to comment. White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt said that, quote, "Trump continues to have the utmost confidence in his national security team, including National Security Advisor Mike Waltz." Indeed, news about the previously unreported Wednesday night conclave, as well as the pervasive sentiment that Waltz is not long for the administration, comes as top officials are publicly rallying to his defense. On Friday, Vance, an avowed team player who appears to have quickly accepted Trump's decision, included Waltz in a high-profile trip to Greenland, happy to leave personnel decisions up to the president, according to a person familiar, granted anonymity to discuss private dynamics. He went further, taunting reporters, suggesting they were just eager for the drama. He vowed they wouldn't get it. Quote, "If you think you're going to force the president of the United States to fire anybody, you've got another thing coming. I'm the vice president saying it here on Friday. We are standing behind our entire national security team." Trump himself said this week Waltz took responsibility and has, quote, "learned a lesson." What's more, lucky for Waltz, the fever pitch of the drama appears to have faded, and the top headlines are about to quickly turn from Signalgate to Trump's April 2nd tariff deadline. And next week's special elections are already casting into sharp focus the politically precarious position of the party. Still, behind the scenes, and despite the White House's public effort to cast the entire episode as a smear rally by the media, there's a sense that Waltz has lost the trust of his colleagues and flubbed his response. A spokesperson for Waltz, Brian Hughes, pushed back on suggestions that Waltz's future remains in doubt, arguing, quote, "The chattering of unnamed sources should be treated with the skepticism of gossip from people lacking the integrity to attach their names. Mike Waltz serves at the pleasure of Donald Trump, and the president has voiced his support for Mike," Hughes said. Quote, "The entire national security leadership team has led a successful and effective counterterrorism mission, and that is what the media and Democrats are trying to obscure." The Wednesday evening meeting came as frustration with Waltz reached a boil at the White House. A day earlier, Waltz claimed to reporters he, quote, "never met, didn't know, never communicated with" Jeffrey Goldberg, the Atlantic editor-in-chief who was included in the chat. Quote, "Wouldn't know him if I bumped into him, if I saw him in a police lineup," Waltz said on Fox News Tuesday night. And by the way, that was the Laura Ingraham interview, the most disastrous interview I've ever seen a Republican official ever give on Fox. He was on the verge of a panic attack. He couldn't control his voice, his tone, his pitch. He was constantly interrupting not only himself, but also Laura Ingraham, making incoherent statements. It was a total train wreck. He knew he was on thin ice. But the next day, administration officials, already skeptical of his assertion, became more perturbed following a viral social media post showing Waltz standing next to the editor at an embassy event years ago. A Waltz ally, granted anonymity to discuss sensitive information, said it's absurd to think that just because he was pictured next to somebody in a room full of people at a large event, that he knows Goldberg. As they passed around the tweet, officials shared another story that made them equally irate. That Waltz's contacts on Venmo were public and included a few mainstream journalists. More infuriating to top officials was what they viewed as Waltz's refusal to take responsibility. They didn't like that he appeared to suggest the journalist broke into the Signal chat willy-nilly, an allegation that may have triggered some sort of investigation, prolonging the scandal. Most of all, some in the White House were disappointed that Waltz did not at least offer Trump his resignation to see if Trump wanted it. Quote, "When you're a staffer and you become a liability or distraction for your principal, you fucking resign. I don't care what the situation is," the second person said. Meanwhile, stories of discontent with Waltz have started to trickle out, and not just because of his hawkish ideological views that some of his skeptics believe diverge from American First isolationists in the administration. Multiple Trump allies have started to claim that Waltz, even before the controversy, was seen by some in the administration as being too big for his britches. Two people close to the West Wing told Politico he lingers around Trump too often and appears to put on airs. Quote, "People don't like him. He thinks he's a principal, and he's not. He's a staffer, and he has a hard time wrapping his fucking head around that," one of the two said. White House allies are also prattling about Waltz's relationship with fellow Floridian Wiles, whispering that it is soured since he was named to the administration. At one point, Waltz sought to push her out of top-level meetings for the NSC, telling her he'd just brief her later on, according to one of the people. Wiles told Waltz that's not his call. Quote, "He doesn't treat her with the kind of respect that he should be treating a chief of staff, and he was probably going to be gone at some point anyway," said the other person familiar with the dynamic. Quote, "So he'll probably be gone, but they just don't want to make it about this." The Waltz ally said Waltz has nothing but the utmost respect for Wiles. Trump, interestingly, has been in this boat before. During his first few months of his first term, Trump faced similar outside pressure to fire his then national security advisor, Michael Flynn, after news surfaced that he had lied to then Vice President Mike Pence and other Trump officials about his conversation with Russian officials during the transition. Trump gave in to the pressure and ousted a man he otherwise viewed as a loyal foot soldier, only to regret it later. Trump and some of his advisors felt that by giving in, they bowed to a Russian narrative that would plague the rest of his presidency. But this term may be different. Quote, "His superpower has been that he doesn't care or respond to the press," one of the people said. But while that saved Waltz this time, it may not next time, the person added. So there you go, folks. Not only do you have brutal new polling where a majority of Americans think this is a big deal, a bigger deal than Hillary's emails, the Biden documents case, the Trump classified documents case, you also have a new right-wing Daily Mail poll indicating that people want both Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth and Michael Waltz to resign or be fired, including a plurality of Republicans. And then you have this bombshell leak indicating that the only reason that Trump didn't shit can at least Michael Waltz himself was because he didn't want to give the liberals or the Democrats or the press a win. He wants to own the libs so much that he'd rather keep in his employ a wildly incompetent and unqualified national security advisor who helped trigger a devastating scandal for the Trump administration. That just goes to show how terrible Trump's judgment is and how he's really not interested in delivering material results or even having a fully functioning, competent administration that is there for the benefit of the people. He just wants to own the libs. That's it. It's that pathetic. And it's up to the Democrats, by the way, to keep this going and ruthlessly, viciously, consistently keep this scandal in front of mind for the American people so that they know how incompetent the Trump administration really is from top to bottom. In the meantime, let me know what you think in the comments.